Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and I am creating some fall cards with the newer set, Stampin' die set called Lights of Wonder or Lights of Aurora. The suite, I think, is called Lights of Aurora. And this is the first card I made with coloring this paper. I'm going to show you how I did that. But the garden green cardstock, once I had this set up, and I'll show you some things I might do differently as well, but once I had the card set up, I thought it might be nice to emboss the back of this. So I do have a really old retired tree embossing folder, and it's Stampin' Up, but I don't remember how old this is. So I ended up embossing this green cardstock for the one that we're going to do in this video. So if you have, you know, something that has trees or branches, you might want to pull that folder out. Then, but I'm going to set this aside because I've already embossed the folder. I have some miscellaneous garden green cardstock. The paper that I colored, I'm using stuff I buy at Walmart, and you can certainly use watercolor paper, but I just get this at Walmart. You can get these 5.5 by 8.5 books. You can get larger ones, and it's just mixed media. It's doable. I mean, certainly you could get better colorations on watercolor paper, but I like this for my intents and purposes, you know, for what I intend my card to do. So I'm using that. Then of course, the Light and Wonder. I used Your Strength Inspires Me for embossing here in gold. Your Strength Inspires Me. And I think I'm going to do the same thing on this version. Then we use the dies, of course. The one I primarily used is the large tree die. And this one, I cut it out several times after I colored the paper. So it was actually pretty easy. These pieces I have used, I've been trying some different things. You can make beautiful hills and stuff, but I thought for fall, I was just gonna focus on just the tree lines. So I also used, if you have the add-on, this was a paper pumpkin add-on. It has leaves, flowers, the little strawberry, but it can also be an acorn. Has the circle die, and then it has hello. So it's still available. You can still buy this as of, where are we at? September. So it's 167277. It's $12. So I used the leaves from this to create these little leaves. And I cut some of these out of the dyed paper. I embossed some gold on this one. I embossed gold on these treetops. And I also shaded a little bit on this green one. So I'll show you how to do that also. And then what else? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I'm using. So for the colored paper, what I did is I took 3 colors. I took Pumpkin Pie, Crushed Curry, and Mossy Meadow. And what I had done for this was I smeared this on my glass mat. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the reinkers, Mossy Meadow, Pumpkin Pie, and of course, my all-time favorite is Crushed Curry. Yeah, this is Crushed Curry. This is an old one. I've had this one a while. So I'm gonna drop them on my glass mat. So I'm gonna set this aside for right now. And then I just kind of took my paper. I did use a whole sheet because then I could cut the trees out wherever I wanted. And then the excess paper, I cut those leaves out of, the tiny little leaves. So I'm basically gonna do the same thing. So I'm gonna start with Pumpkin Pie. garden green, and some crushed curry. And then what I'm gonna do, I don't want these to mix, so to speak, because then it's just gonna get muddied. But I'm gonna spray them a little bit with some water. And then what I'm gonna do is drag this green down, drag this orange up, and then put this kind of crushed curry in the middle. And then I am actually, and I'm gonna spritz this just a little bit. And then I'm just gonna kind of smush this down. This is kind of what I did before, but I didn't use the re-inkers. And then you can just kind of keep picking up. I did have some white spots on my paper before, but it really didn't bother me that I had some white areas. There. So then I just dried this, and then I picked like where I wanted to cut the trees out of. I definitely had more orange the last go around than I did on this one. And don't worry, like there's kind of like a line there. Don't worry about that line, because you're never gonna see it once you cut the trees. You're never gonna see these lines or those separations. And I'm actually gonna add a little bit of orange to this. And I might do that second sheet. And then maybe a little bit of crushed curry over here. And we'll get this paper to be a little more orange. And then I'll just put a tad bit of water on this. Same thing, we'll just kind of smoosh it down. Oh, that's gorgeous. And then just pick up where you get those white spots. And one of the things you have to keep in mind is this is watercolor. So even though you dry this, if you try to do other techniques with more watercolor based items, it will start to kind of muddy and smear. So you have to kind of watch what else you're layering on top of this. And then we're gonna set that here. I'm gonna dry that a little bit more. We're gonna put those inks aside, and then I'm gonna cut the trees out. And the last time that I did this, I had a lot more white spaces, white in the paper. But when you cut your trees out and stuff, you can see some white here. You don't even have to worry, because you don't have to use that part for your trees. So don't worry if there's white on your edges. And then I'm gonna dry those a little bit, just a little bit longer. Oh, and I will tell you too, I started to punch out, I forgot. There was an old, like trio punch set, and it was coordinating with paper. So if you have these lying around, they would be cute to use with this set as well. So I almost forgot. So I cut out some leaves out of this. I didn't cut any acorns yet, but I did cut some little leaves with these punches. So if you have these, dig them out, because they're they coordinate very nicely with the leaf from that paper pumpkin add-on. Okay, so we're gonna let those dry a little bit while we do our sentiment. And all I did was I just took a leftover green scrap and I just took the Versamark and gold. So we'll get this ready. And then our little embossing buddy keeps the gold from going all over the place. And then I just kind of centered this in a green, leftover green strip that I had. Now I'm gonna leave this out because I'll show you how I did the treetops and puts a touch of gold on those treetops. So we're gonna leave that out for a second. And then this, that looks good, so we'll dry that. Okay, so then, look at that. It would even be cute if you just put some little leaves kind of falling around on this card. Oh my gosh, it'd be cute like that. You don't even have to use these dies. Okay, so we're gonna cut. So what I did was I just kind of looked at where I wanted these as far as the colors. And then I cut the paper so it would fit into my, because this is too wide for my machine. So it has to go this way in my machine. So I kind of cut the paper, but I think I'm gonna cut one out down here. So I'm gonna cut this off so that it will fit into my machine. But then I think I'm gonna pick one. Actually, I'll be honest, I cut this 3 times because I cut this in half and I stacked. So there's a half a piece here and there's a half a piece there. And then I staggered the 2 full pieces. So I cut this 3 times. So I do like, I think this will be pretty. I'm gonna do this. Go up I'm gonna go up a scotch. I don't want that piece. Not that that's bad, but I don't want that. So we're gonna go up a little bit on this one. So we'll use those 2. Then we need a third. So I kind of like this bright. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with this bright one. And then we'll do this one. I could probably go, no, we'll go across. Okay. Should we move it up? Let me move it up. Nope. I actually like that bottom being. Okay, so we'll cut those out. So I'm gonna do that. And I'm just gonna bring over my Cuttlebug, which is tried and true. This little Cuttlebug is indestructible, if you ask me. And this is wider than your card base, so you don't really need your paper to be as wide as the die, because it's gonna be, you're gonna have more, when you cut it out, you're gonna have more than your card base. If you're doing an A2, I probably should say that. So let's cut this here. And I think I ran this through twice, like back and forth. So I don't know what your machine is like, but the Cuttlebug usually in a double pass will cut these out. And then usually what I do is I flip it over and I make sure, yep, perfect. So that's one. And then we'll do this one. You know what? Let's go this way. I changed my mind on the direction of that one. And then you do have to kind of clean out all those little pockets of paper that are stuck in there, but it's not, I use my brush and it goes pretty well, so. And then save these, because these you can cut the leaves from that die. So, gosh, I love this for the tops, this bright orange. So I'm gonna actually put this right about there. And then what I do is I take my die brush, and usually while it's still in the die, I just turn this over and I just kind of scrub the back of it. I scrub pretty hard too, and I just kind of do that to loosen that up. And then I do it through the front. And that way you're gonna get a majority of those little bits out. And most of them will come out of here too. And you can kind of lightly tap it and they'll come out as well. So, oh, that's gorgeous. Yeah, that turned out, I like that one. So we're gonna save these for those leaves, and then we're gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna lightly brush the back of these. And then we'll save that one, and then we'll do this one. And I'll still need to poke a few things out, but gosh, that's gonna be pretty for the little leaves too. I just love fall colors, especially so we're in Pennsylvania, and the colors here are gonna start to just get beautiful here soon. All right, so let's poke out, and then we're gonna see. And then what I did is I just kind of layered these on top of each other before I cut anything apart, just to see what colors showed. And I also will tell you that one of the mistakes I made on this first card is I feel like I should have brought a layer of these trees up a little higher. So that's something I'm gonna do on this card. And then, even though it's embossed and it won't look as plain since I embossed that cardstock, but there. So most of those are out. A couple back here. And then this one, oh, that's pretty too. This one might go on the front, and I'll put those orange ones in the back. We'll see. I almost don't even need to emboss the gold on the treetops. These are just pretty as is. I'll do it just so I can show you how I did it. Now, if you have an embossing pen, you could certainly use that too. I just used my stamp pad and basically dipped this paper into my embossing pad. So this is what I'll start to do then. I'll start to kind of layer these, see what I want to keep, and how I want to layer them and cut them apart. So we're going to do that. Let's finish weeding the stuff out of this one. This one's actually probably got the most in it. It does. It has quite a bit more in it. And then you could do this for Christmas as well and turn these into Christmas colors and do blues and spruce greens and, you know, make it look like a whole forest of different evergreens. And because right now, I think we have a new, oh no, the in color I'm thinking of, it's that cloud. It's a pretty kind of a mint blue green, but it's cloud cover, but I don't think it's I don't think the ink color is available, but there is a darker blue that would probably make some pretty trees with the spruce colors, the green spruce colors. Okay, so I'm gonna set these leaves over there. So now what I did is I just kind of figured out what kind of contrast I wanted. And then I cut these and I staggered them in the back too. I did put them flush when I did layer. I put them flush to the card, but yeah, I think I would put them flush. And then this one might go nicely back here like that. So if this is our arrangement, and see, you don't even have to worry about that because you can cover that. But, ooh, I like that. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna trim this off, probably right about here. These I glued together first. And then this one we can definitely put a little bit higher. Yeah. So, okay. So let's glue these together. And then I almost don't want to, I'll show you what I did with the gold on this one, because I almost don't want to put the gold on these, but I'll show you how I did it. And then, okay, let's glue these together and start to layer. So the first thing I did is I glued these where I wanted them, on that bottom, just on the bottom strip, and just kind of secured those. And then if you don't like this gap here, that's where you can hide with your strip. Okay, then this one is gonna be higher. So we're just gonna glue just this bottom for a second until I have them positioned. Then that's when I glued everything, once I had them in a good spot, because you don't want this to be too tall, this orange one. Oh, it's perfect. Oh, love it. Oh my goodness. That's so pretty. Oops, he didn't stick. I didn't want to put a lot of glue at first. Okay, now we need to pop him up a little taller. Like that. Okay, then I did do the embossing first, but I like the way these are. Then I just trimmed the edges, no matter where this ended on the side of the card. But I glued all these down. Just like a little bit of glue here and there. And you could use the sticker paper, you know, Stampin' Up! Has the sticker paper. You could certainly do that if you don't want to, you know, fuddle with all this liquid glue and stuff like that. But, okay, I'll put some down here. Then I just positioned this flush with the bottom of my card. And I actually am going to do that edge flush there. I was actually going to push that off more, but the more I looked at it. And then we'll scoot this down and make sure that's toward the bottom. And then we're going to put our strip there. And then these, I just kind of went in and I just glued a little bit on the backs of these. Just to add it so it doesn't lift up too much. And then we'll just put this on there for some weight. And this is going to go down here. So now I'll just let that kind of weight down. So what I did to get the gold tips is I took my Versamark pad and I just kind of did these little tips, just tapped them in like that. Not a lot, you don't need a lot of it. And then I took my gold powder, and this could go on the inside of my card actually. And then I just dipped it in my embossing powder and heated it up. And because I had orange and yellows, it made the gold almost look like a little bit like copper. Oh, that's cute. So you can see how that ink almost comes through, but that's how I did the tips. And so I put it, you know, into the back, and that's how I did the tips, tip tops of these trees. So if this were, you know, back behind there, you know, it would be just kind of a little bright, shiny light. Okay, so let's trim this off. I'm going to put this on the inside of the card, I think. We're going to trim these off. And then this is going to go kind of to the edge here, so we'll just trim this off. I'm just going to put it right there. And then the leaves, I just kind of arranged the leaves. And I did put some gold embossing powder on those little leaves as well. And then I sponged some soft suede onto the green to kind of give them a little aged look too. So these ones, so these are the ones I cut out of the inked paper. And so like this one's a little bit brighter, but You could tuck them behind there. What else do we have? Got a yellow one here. Could tuck it in like that. I might actually leave them off of this one. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave them off. Now this is a little uneven, so I'm gonna actually trim this because I didn't quite get my tree line as even as I would have liked, if you can kind of see that. So I'm gonna trim that just a little bit. Just take like a 1/16 of an inch off of that. Yeah, that's a lot better. Yeah, I like how this one turned out without the gold. I think that's pretty. You know, if that were on in the background, I think it's pretty, but I actually like it without the gold as well. And your coloring too, you know, when you're doing those papers, you're gonna get a different card every time, because if I were to cut trees out of this piece, it's gonna look, you know, completely different from that. So yeah, that's my card. And then on the inside, I think, I don't know, I could probably put it behind, like if I had an insert, and then I could put that behind the insert or something. I don't know, I'm gonna figure something out with that. But yeah, super kind of cool fall card. This die set, I'm telling you, it is, I have so many ideas for it. And I just, you know, I hope you guys have a lot of fun with it if you ended up getting it. You don't really need the sentiments, you know, if you just want to mess around with the dies, you can just buy the dies separately. This stamp set and die is a bundle, or you can buy this separately and you can buy the dies separately, or there's a suite, and the suite will give you ribbon, paper, and some embellishments, I believe. And I'll have all that linked if you do want to check it out. And I'll also link those paper pumpkin add-on dies. And in case, you might have them, but in case you don't, you could still order them as of now. So yeah, hey, thanks for watching. And yeah, I hope this fall card inspired you to get this die set out and start playing with it. And yeah, have a great day.